My mom said, "Your brother is the smart one. You're just the one with money. Without your wallet, you're nothing." I said, "Let's test that." Close the wallet. She's still talking about him. I'm still not taking her calls. Hey, Reddit. So my mom basically told me I'm worthless without my bank account, then got real surprised when I actually closed said bank account. Here we are 6 months later, and she's still leaving voicemails about how unreasonable I'm being. Spoiler alert, I'm not picking up. I'm 29, and I've spent the better part of a decade being the family ATM. My younger brother Cameron is 26, and according to our mother, he's basically Einstein mixed with Steve Jobs and a dash of Mother Teresa. Me? I'm just the guy with the checkbook. That's it. That's my entire value to this family. Let me paint you a picture of how we got here, because this didn't happen overnight. This was years of buildup, years of me being treated like a walking wallet with legs, and years of Cameron being worshipped despite accomplishing exactly nothing with his life. Growing up, Cameron was the favorite, not even subtle about it. Mom would hang his mediocre art projects on the fridge like they belonged in the Louvre, while my actual achievements got a distracted nod. I made honor roll every semester through middle and high school. Cameron barely passed his classes. But when report cards came out, Mom would spend an hour dissecting Cameron's grades, talking about his potential, his creativity, how traditional education just didn't suit his brilliant mind. My straight A's got a thumbs up and maybe a pat on the head if I was lucky. The difference continued into our adult lives. Cameron went to community college for about 3 semesters before deciding that formal education was stifling his entrepreneurial spirit. Translation: he was failing and didn't want to admit it. He moved back home and started what he called his design business. In reality, he made logos on Fiverr for like 20 bucks a pop and called himself a creative director. Mom told everyone her son was running his own company. Me? I went to State University, graduated with a degree in supply chain management, and got hired at a logistics company right out of school. Nothing fancy, nothing glamorous. I coordinate shipments, manage inventory systems, and deal with angry clients when their pallets don't show up on time. It's steady work. It pays well. It's boring as hell, but it's reliable. Mom never understood what I did for work. She'd introduce me at family gatherings as someone who works with trucks or something. Meanwhile, Cameron's Fiverr hustle was described as running a boutique creative agency. The dude lived in our parents' basement and made maybe $800 a month on a good month. But sure, Mom, he's a CEO. About 5 years ago, I moved out and got my own place. Nothing crazy, just a decent 2-bedroom apartment about 30 minutes from my parents' house. I was making around 60 grand at the time, which was enough to live comfortably and start building some actual savings. This is important for later. Cameron naturally stayed home, rent-free, bill-free. He had this whole setup in the basement with his gaming PC and his design software, and Mom would bring him meals like he was recovering from surgery. Dad mostly checked out of the favoritism game years ago. He'd just shrug and say Mom knows best, which was his way of avoiding conflict. The money requests started small. Mom would call and say the water heater broke. Could I chip in a couple hundred? Or Cameron needed new equipment for his business. Could I help out since I had a steady paycheck? Or Dad's car needed repairs, and they were a bit short this month. It was always something. And like an absolute chump, I always said yes. Because that's what you do, right? You help family. You don't keep score. You support each other. All that wholesome garbage we're taught growing up about family coming first. But it kept escalating. The requests got bigger, more frequent, more urgent. And it was always framed like I was the bad guy if I hesitated. Mom had this way of making me feel guilty for having money when they needed it. Like I was hoarding wealth while they struggled, even though I was struggling too. I was saving for a house. I was trying to build something for myself. But every time I got close to hitting my savings goals, some family emergency would appear, and there went 2 grand. The thing is, these weren't really emergencies. I started noticing that. The water heater that broke, they'd been talking about replacing it for years because it was old, but they never saved for it. Cameron's new equipment? He didn't need a $1,500 tablet to make logos. He wanted it. There's a difference. Dad's car repairs? Maintenance he'd been putting off for months. They weren't in crisis. They were just bad with money, and I was enabling it. But Cameron was the real drain. Every few months, he'd have some new business idea that required startup capital. A dropshipping store, a print-on-demand t-shirt line, a YouTube channel about productivity, a podcast about mindfulness. None of them ever went anywhere, but Mom always believed this was the one that would take off. And she'd call me asking if I could invest in my brother's future. I gave him probably 15 grand over the years for various ventures. None of them made back a single cent. But according to Mom, this just proved how innovative he was. He was ahead of his time. The market wasn't ready. He needed better resources. It was never that his ideas sucked or that he had zero work ethic. It was always external factors holding back his genius. Last year, I got promoted to senior coordinator. Came with a nice bump in pay, brought me up to around 85 grand. I didn't tell my parents immediately because I knew what would happen. But Mom found out somehow, probably from my aunt who I stupidly mentioned it to at a family barbecue. The phone calls intensified. Now that I was making more, surely I could help more. Cameron needed a new laptop because his old one was slow. Mom and Dad wanted to redo their kitchen. Could I pitch in? Cameron's car died. Could I co-sign on a loan since his credit was non-existent? He'd make the payments, obviously. Spoiler, he did not make the payments, and I ended up covering them to save my credit score. I was hemorrhaging money to these people while still living in my same basic apartment because I couldn't save enough for a down payment. Meanwhile, Cameron was playing video games in the basement between his part-time logo gigs, and Mom was planning their kitchen renovation that I was apparently funding. The breaking point came about 7 months ago at Dad's birthday dinner. We went to this Italian place Dad likes. Nothing too fancy, but nice enough that you're dropping $60 a head by the time appetizers and dessert are included. I offered to pay for dinner because it's Dad's birthday, and I'm not a monster. We're sitting there, and somehow the conversation turns to Cameron's latest idea. He wanted to start a consulting business. What kind of consulting, you ask? Excellent question. He had no idea. Just consulting. For businesses. About things. He'd figure out the specifics later. But he needed money for a website, business cards, and a LinkedIn premium subscription. I'm sitting there, picking at my chicken parm, half listening to this pitch I've heard 17 variations of, when Mom says she's so proud of Cameron for being such a visionary, for thinking outside the box, for not settling for some boring corporate job. That stung, but I let it go. I'm used to the subtle digs at my career. Then she turns to me and says, real casual, like she's commenting on the weather, whether I could help Cameron get this consulting thing off the ground. She's thinking maybe 5 grand should cover it. 5 grand. For business cards and a website that he could make himself with the design software I'd already bought him. 5 grand. I said no. Politely, but firmly. I said I'd already helped fund multiple business ideas that hadn't worked out, and I didn't think this was a good investment. Mom's face did this thing. This tight smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She put down her fork and said, well, it must be nice to be so comfortable that you can just dismiss your brother's dreams like that. Dad mumbled something about not fighting at dinner. Cameron just sat there scrolling his phone, not even defending himself. Why would he? Mom always did that for him. I should have left it alone. I should have just nodded and changed the subject. But something in me snapped. Maybe it was hearing my job called boring for the millionth time. Maybe it was being treated like an ATM disguised as a son. Maybe it was watching Cameron sit there, completely unbothered, while Mom guilt-tripped me into funding his lifestyle. I said that Cameron was 26 years old, still living at home, making barely enough to cover gas money, and had never completed a single project he'd started. Maybe instead of throwing more money at failed ideas, he should get a regular job and learn some responsibility. The table went quiet, like dead silent. You could hear the kitchen staff arguing in Italian from across the restaurant. Mom's face went from tight smile to something I'd never seen before. Pure anger. She leaned forward and said in this cold voice that Cameron was the smart one in the family, the creative one, the one with real potential. Then she looked right at me and said, I was just the one with money. She said, and I'm quoting here because these words are burned into my brain, without your wallet, you're nothing. Cameron has talent, intelligence, vision. You just have a paycheck. That's the only reason we keep you around. Dad didn't say anything. Cameron didn't look up from his phone. The waiter approached with dessert menus, took one look at our table, and backed away slowly. I sat there for a second, processing what my mother just said to me. That my only value was money. That without it, I'm nothing. That they keep me around because I'm useful. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and took out enough cash to cover my portion of the meal, tax, and tip. I put it on the table. Then I looked at Mom and said, you know what? Let's test that theory. She looked confused. I clarified. If I'm nothing without my wallet, and you only keep me around because of it, then let's see what happens when the wallet closes. Starting now. Cameron finally looked up from his phone. Dad's eyes went wide. Mom's face went through several emotions real quick, landing on this nervous laugh. She said I was being dramatic, that I was twisting her words, that she obviously didn't mean it like that. But she did. We both knew she did. And I was done pretending otherwise. I walked out of that restaurant, and I haven't given them a cent since. Not a dollar. Not a favor? Nothing. The first week was blissfully quiet. I think they assumed I was blowing off steam and would come around once I calmed down. Mom sent a text saying we should talk, but kept it vague. I didn't respond. Week 2, the calls started. Not from Mom directly at first, but from Dad. Awkward calls where he'd talk about random stuff, weather and sports, clearly working up to asking me to reconsider. I'd let him talk, then say I had to go. He never quite got to the ask. Cameron called once, only once, asked if I was still mad about dinner. I said no, I'm not mad. I'm just done being the family bank. He said I was being petty. I hung up. Week 3, Mom left a voicemail. Cameron's car payment was due, the one I'd co-signed for, and he couldn't cover it. She wasn't asking me to pay it, she said, just to talk to the loan company about extending the due date or something. I didn't call back. I paid the minimum to keep my credit intact and added it to the running tab of money they owed me that I'd never see again. By week 4, the tone shifted. Mom left another voicemail saying she'd been thinking about what she said at dinner, and maybe it came out wrong. She didn't apologize, mind you, just said it came out wrong. She wanted to explain what she really meant. I didn't call back. Week 6, Dad called and actually said they needed help. The kitchen renovation they'd started, the one they apparently began before securing all the funding, was halfway done, and they'd run out of money. The contractor was threatening to walk. Could I just loan them enough to finish it? He'd pay me back. Sure, Dad. Like all those other times you paid me back. I told him no, wished him luck with the contractor, and hung up. This is when Mom started showing up at my apartment. I'd come home from work and find her sitting in her car in the visitor parking. The first time, I ignored her and went inside. She knocked on my door for 10 minutes before giving up. The second time, I told her through the door that I had nothing to say to her. The third time, I threatened to call security if she didn't leave. The extended family got involved. My aunt called, the one I'd mentioned the promotion to. She said Mom was really torn up about this, and families fight sometimes. But I was taking it too far. I asked if Mom told her what she said to me at dinner. My aunt went quiet, then said, well, even if she said something hurtful, she's my mother, and I should forgive her. I asked if Mom had apologized. Aunt said Mom shouldn't have to apologize for speaking her mind in frustration. I hung up. My cousin sent me a Facebook message saying I was destroying the family over money, and that was pretty messed up. I screenshot the message, posted it to my story with the caption actually it's about respect, but go off, and blocked him. 3 months in, and Mom was still calling weekly. The voicemails got longer. She'd talk about how Cameron was struggling, how Dad was stressed, how I was being selfish and childish, how family was supposed to stick together, how I'd regret this someday. Never once did she say sorry for what she said. Never once did she acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, she was wrong. Cameron, meanwhile, had to get an actual job. Mom called it a tragedy. He was working at a sporting goods store, part-time, making minimum wage. According to Mom's voicemails, this was destroying his creative spirit. He couldn't focus on his business ideas because he was exhausted from standing at a register for 6 hours. The horror. Welcome to the real world, little brother. The kitchen renovation never got finished. They're apparently living with half-done cabinets and no backsplash. Dad complained about it to me during one of his awkward check-in calls. I suggested he talk to Cameron about contributing to the household, since he's living there rent-free. Dad changed the subject. Around month 4, Mom tried a different approach. She called and left a voicemail saying she understood why I was hurt and we should sit down and talk it through like adults. She suggested we meet for coffee. Neutral ground. Just talk. I almost considered it. For like 10 seconds. Then I remembered exactly what she said at that dinner. Without your wallet, you're nothing. That's not something you say in the heat of the moment and take back later. That's how she really sees me. That's what she really thinks. So, no, Mom. I'm not meeting you for coffee so you can manipulate me into opening my wallet again. I'm good. Month 5, Cameron apparently moved out. Not into his own place, obviously, because that would require money and responsibility. He moved in with his girlfriend, some girl he'd been seeing for a few months. Mom called it a positive step toward independence. I called it him finding a new person to mooch off of. Poor girl had no idea what she was in for. The calls from Mom got more desperate. Now Cameron wasn't around to help with stuff around the house, and they couldn't afford to hire people for basic maintenance. Could I at least come over and help fix the fence? Or clean the gutters? I didn't respond. There are services for that. They cost money. Figure it out. Dad called and straight up asked how long I was planning to keep this up. I said as long as it takes. He asked what that meant. I said until Mom apologizes for what she said and means it. Not one of those I'm sorry you feel that way apologies. A real one. Dad sighed and said, Mom's not good at apologizing. I said that sounds like a mom problem. Month 6, which is where we are now, and Mom left a voicemail that was different from the others. She sounded tired, said she didn't understand why I was doing this, said she was my mother and she loved me and family was supposed to be forever, said she'd always be there when I came to my senses. Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement of what she said. Still no recognition that maybe, just maybe, treating your kid like a walking ATM for a decade was wrong. Just confusion about why I dare stand up for myself. And here's the thing, Reddit. I don't miss them. I don't miss the calls asking for money. I don't miss the guilt trips. I don't miss watching Cameron get praised for doing nothing while my accomplishments got dismissed. I don't miss being treated like my only value was my bank account. My life is actually better now. I'm saving money again. Real money. I'm on track to actually put a down payment on a house next year. I picked up some hobbies I'd been putting off because I was always too stressed about the next financial request. I started rock climbing at a gym near my apartment. I'm learning to cook actual meals instead of living on takeout. I'm sleeping better. Cutting them off was the healthiest thing I've ever done for myself. The extended family still tries to guilt trip me occasionally. Last week, my uncle called and said I should really reconsider this whole thing because family is important. I asked if he'd been funding his siblings' lifestyles for the past decade. He said that was different. I asked how. He couldn't answer. I told him to have a nice day and hung up. My aunt sent me a text yesterday saying Mom cried at a family gathering because I wasn't there, that I was breaking her heart, that she didn't understand what she did wrong. I didn't respond, but I wanted to. I wanted to text back a transcript of that dinner conversation. But honestly, what's the point? They've all chosen sides. They've all decided I'm the bad guy for having boundaries. Cameron hasn't reached out since that one call months ago. Not surprised. He never wanted a relationship with me. Just access to my wallet. Now that the wallet's closed, I'm useless to him. Kind of proves Mom's point, doesn't it? Except she thought that made me worthless. I think it makes them worthless. Last week I got a letter in the mail. Actual handwritten letter from Mom. First line was, I don't understand why you're doing this to our family. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. Not, I was wrong. Just confusion about why I won't play my role as the family ATM anymore. She wrote about how Cameron is really struggling now, how he's working 2 jobs, his relationship with his girlfriend is strained, and he's stressed all the time. She said I should be proud that he's finally being responsible, and maybe now would be a good time to help him get back on his feet. You know, now that he's learned his lesson or whatever. I read the letter twice, then threw it away. Because here's what Mom doesn't get. Cameron isn't struggling because I won't help him anymore. Cameron's struggling because he's 26 years old and has no skills, no work ethic, and no concept of financial responsibility. That's not my fault. That's hers. She enabled this. She created this situation by never making him stand on his own 2 feet. And she wants me to swoop in and save him again so he can go right back to being the same entitled brat he's always been. Hard pass, Mom. The letter ended with this line that really got me. No matter what happens, I'll always be your mother, and I'll always love you. Just wish you'd remember that blood is thicker than water. Except that's not even the full saying. The actual phrase is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning the relationships you choose are more important than the ones you're born into. Funny how everyone always gets that wrong. And Mom has no idea how right she accidentally was. Because I am choosing my relationships now. I'm choosing not to have people in my life who see me as nothing more than a funding source. I'm choosing not to enable a grown man who refuses to grow up. I'm choosing not to accept abuse disguised as family obligation. My coworker asked me last week if I ever think about reaching out, if I miss having a family. I told him the truth. I don't miss being used. I don't miss being disrespected. I don't miss being taken for granted. And if that's what family means to them, then they can keep it. He asked what I'd do if Mom actually apologized. Like really apologized. I told him I'd probably consider it. But she won't. Because in her mind, she didn't do anything wrong. I'm just being sensitive. I'm just being petty. I'm just throwing away family over money, which is exactly what she accused me of being obsessed with in the first place. The irony is completely lost on her. Someone else at work suggested maybe I was being too harsh, that parents make mistakes and I should give her another chance. I asked if their parents ever told them they were worthless without their bank account. They went quiet. Exactly. There's a difference between normal family friction and being told your only value is financial. One of those things you work through. The other, you walk away from. Someone at work suggested family therapy. I laughed. Can you imagine? Sitting in some therapist's office while Mom explains how I've abandoned the family, and the therapist nods sympathetically. Then I'd have to explain that I was told my only value was my bank account, and Mom would say that's not what she meant, and we'd go in circles for an hour. No thanks. I'll save my money and sanity. My phone is full of unheard voicemails from Mom. I don't delete them, but I don't listen to them either. They're just there, piling up, a digital monument to her inability to say two simple words. I'm sorry. Cameron called from a different number last month. I picked up before checking the caller ID. He asked how long I was planning to keep this grudge going. I said it's not a grudge, it's a boundary. He said that was the same thing. I said no, it's really not, and hung up. He didn't call back. I ran into my cousin at the grocery store 2 weeks ago, the one who sent me that Facebook message. He pretended not to see me, but we ended up in the same checkout line. Awkward as hell. He finally said, "Hey." I mumbled something back, and we both stared at our phones until one of us could leave. Fine by me. I'm not interested in fake pleasantries with people who think I'm the villain in this story. Here's what nobody seems to get. I'm not punishing them. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Punishment would be actively trying to hurt them or get revenge. Protection is simply removing myself from a situation that was hurting me. They can frame it however they want, but I know what this is. The money I've saved since cutting them off is sitting in my house fund. I'm up to almost 40 grand now. Another year or so, and I'll have enough for a real down payment on a house that I'm buying with money I earned that nobody can guilt me into giving away. I've been looking at listings online. Nothing fancy, just a small starter home in a decent neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, maybe a small yard. Something that's mine. Something nobody can take from me or make me feel guilty for having. My realtor asked if I was planning to have family visit once I bought a place. I said no, probably not. She looked surprised but didn't push it. I appreciated that. I'm tired of people assuming family automatically equals love and support. Sometimes family equals toxicity and obligation. The rock climbing gym has become my new hangout spot. I go 3 times a week now. Met some cool people there. Nobody asks about my family. Nobody knows about any of this drama. I'm just a guy who's getting pretty decent at bouldering and occasionally falls on his face trying routes that are too advanced. It's refreshing. One of the guys from the gym, Jake, invited me to a barbecue at his place next month. Just a chill thing with some friends from the climbing community. I said yes. First social event I've agreed to in months. It felt good. Normal. Like maybe I could build something here. A chosen family instead of an obligated one. Mom left a voicemail last week saying Cameron and his girlfriend broke up. Apparently, she couldn't handle him not contributing to rent and bills. Shocking. Mom's trying to get him to move back home, but Dad's putting his foot down for once. Says Cameron needs to figure it out. Good for Dad. Only took him 26 years to set a boundary. Mom hinted in the voicemail that maybe I knew of any job openings at my company, because apparently I'm still expected to help, even though I'm supposedly worthless without my wallet. The disconnect is stunning. I didn't respond, obviously. I've been thinking about blocking their numbers. Haven't done it yet. Not sure why. Maybe some part of me is still hoping for that real apology. Maybe I'm just leaving the door open a crack in case they ever wake up and realize how messed up this all is. Or maybe I'm just not ready to completely close that chapter yet. But I'm getting there. I've been sitting with the question of what resolution would even look like. What would it take for me to consider letting them back into my life? I thought about it for a while. An actual apology from Mom. Not an excuse. Not a justification. Not an, "I'm sorry you felt that way." A real acknowledgement that what she said was wrong and hurtful. Some recognition that they've been using me financially for years, and that wasn't okay. That I'm not a bad son for having boundaries. Changed behavior, not promises of change. Actual demonstrated change over time. Cameron supporting himself. Mom respecting my decisions. Dad standing up for me instead of playing neutral. Honestly, I don't think those things will happen, but it's good to know what I need even if I'll never get it. At least I'm clear on my boundaries now. I've started dating again. Nothing serious, just casual coffee dates and dinner now and then. It's nice. One woman asked about my family, and I gave her the abbreviated version. She said she respected that I had boundaries. We're going out again next week. Baby steps. My car has been making a weird noise. In the past, I'd probably have ignored it because I'd just emptied my savings on some family emergency. Now, I took it to the mechanic, paid the $800 repair bill, and didn't think twice about it. Because that's my money. For my life. For my stuff. What a concept. I got my performance review last week. Stellar, as usual. Boss hinted at another promotion in the next year or so. Asked if I'd be interested in taking on more responsibility. I said absolutely. Because I like my boring corporate job. It's stable. It pays well. and it's mine. Nobody gets to call it worthless. The kitchen in my apartment is small, but I've been experimenting with cooking. Made a pretty decent stir-fry last night, watching YouTube videos to learn techniques. It's actually fun. Relaxing even. Never had time for this kind of thing before because I was always stressed about money or dealing with some family drama. I've been thinking about getting a dog. The apartment complex allows them with a deposit. Nothing huge, maybe a rescue mutt. Something to keep me company. Something that won't judge me or demand money or tell me I'm worthless. Just a good boy who's happy to see me when I come home. Seems like a good trade. My birthday is next month. Usually there'd be a family dinner. Awkward conversations. Forced smiles. Cameron showing up late. Mom taking 500 photos for Facebook. Dad trying to keep everyone happy. I'm not doing that this year. Jake from the gym asked if I wanted to grab drinks with some people from our climbing group. I said yes. That's my birthday plan. Climb some routes, get some food, hang out with people who don't want anything from me except good company. Mom will probably call on my birthday. Leave some emotional voicemail about how she misses me and wishes things were different. I might listen to it. Might not. Depends on how I'm feeling. But I won't call back. Not until she says what needs to be said. Cameron will probably forget it's my birthday entirely. That's fine. We haven't acknowledged each other's birthdays in years. At least now I'm not expected to send him money disguised as a birthday gift. Dad will text, something short and awkward. Hope you have a good day, son. Miss you. Or something like that. I'll probably text back a thanks. Because I don't hate Dad. He's just weak. He let Mom run the show for so long that he forgot how to stand up for anything. But he's not malicious like Mom can be. He's just passive. And that's almost worse in some ways. I've been sleeping better. Didn't realize how much the family stuff was affecting me until it stopped. No more random calls disrupting my day. No more guilt hanging over me. No more checking my bank account with dread, wondering how much this month's family emergency was going to cost me. Just peace. The other day I was sitting on my couch watching a show, eating takeout because I didn't feel like cooking, and I realized I was content. Actually content. Not happy in a jumping up and down way. Just calm, satisfied, at peace with my life and my choices. When's the last time I felt that way? Probably never. This is what they took from me for years. This feeling of being okay with myself and my life. They made me feel like I was never doing enough, never giving enough, never being enough. And all of it was so they could avoid taking responsibility for their own choices and failures. Mom thinks I'm punishing her by not answering her calls. She thinks I'm being stubborn, childish, ungrateful. She tells the extended family I'm throwing away family over money. She frames herself as the victim in all this. Poor Mom, whose son won't speak to her over some little comment at dinner months ago. But here's the thing she'll never understand. I don't care if she tells everyone I'm the bad guy. I don't care if the whole family thinks I'm wrong. I don't care if they never speak to me again. Because their opinion of me doesn't define my worth. My job doesn't define my worth. My bank account doesn't define my worth. I define my worth. And I'm worth more than being someone's ATM. That's what Mom said at that dinner, whether she meant to or not. She said I'm nothing without my wallet. She said the only reason they keep me around is because I have money. And you know what? She was right about one thing. I am nothing to them without my wallet. But I'm something to myself. I'm a guy who works hard, who pays his bills on time, who's learning to rock climb and cook and be okay alone, who's saving for a house, who's building a life that makes him happy instead of making everyone else comfortable. I'm something, just not to them. And I'm okay with that now. Took me a while to get here. Months of anger and hurt and guilt and questioning whether I was making the right choice. But I'm here now, on the other side of it, and it's better here. So Mom can keep calling. She can keep leaving voicemails about how I'm abandoning the family. She can keep telling anyone who'll listen that I'm selfish and cold and all the other things she needs to believe to make herself the victim. I don't care anymore. Cameron can keep struggling with his jobs and his relationships and his total lack of life skills. That's not my problem to fix. It never was. He's an adult. Time for him to act like one. Dad can keep being neutral and passive and hoping everyone will just get along eventually. That's his choice. But I'm not going to be the one who gives in just to keep the peace. Peace at what cost? My self-respect? My financial security? My mental health? No thanks. The wallet's closed, Mom. And it's staying that way. You said I was nothing without it. I said let's test that. 6 months later, I'm doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. Meanwhile, you're the one calling me, leaving desperate voicemails, sending letters, getting the family involved. You're the one who can't seem to move on. Turns out I wasn't nothing without the wallet. But maybe you're nothing without it. That's the real test, isn't it? Who needs who more? You spent years making me feel like I needed you, like family was everything, like I'd be lost without you guys. But I'm not lost. I'm right here, living my life, making my plans, being content. You're the one who's lost without me, without my money, without my help, without someone to blame and use and take for granted. And now you don't know what to do. So keep calling, Mom. Keep leaving those voicemails. I've got plenty of storage space on my phone. They can sit there unheard along with all the other things you've said that I've chosen not to accept anymore. Because that's what this is really about. Not money, not family, not even that comment at dinner, though that was the catalyst. This is about me choosing not to accept being treated like garbage anymore. It's about deciding that my peace and happiness matter more than maintaining a relationship with people who don't respect me. And if that makes me the bad guy in your story, I can live with that. Because I'm the hero in my story. And that's the only story that matters. The wallet's closed, Mom. I'm good. Actually good. For the first time in years. You wanted to test whether I was nothing without it. Test complete. Results are in. I'm doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, that's what I thought. Update. It's been a couple weeks since I posted this. Figured I'd add an update since some stuff has happened. Mom found the post. Don't ask me how, but she did. My cousin apparently sent it to her after recognizing some of the details. Small world, I guess. She called 16 times in one day. 16. I didn't answer, obviously, but I did listen to the voicemails because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment. The first few were angry. How dare I air family business online? How dare I make her look bad? How dare I tell strangers about private matters? Classic Mom, making it about her reputation instead of her behavior. The middle ones were sad, lots of crying and saying she didn't raise me to be this cruel. And the last few were back to angry, saying if I wanted to cut her off, fine. But posting about it online was a new low. Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement. Just anger that I told the truth about what happened. Dad called too. Just once. Said he read the post and that I wasn't being fair. That Mom had her faults, but she loved me. That I was hurting her. I asked if he remembered what she said at that dinner. He went quiet, then said, "Your mother says things when she's frustrated." I asked if that made it okay. He sighed and said no. But that's not a reason to do this. I told him I disagreed and hung up. Cameron sent me a text. First time he's reached out in months. It just said, "Real mature, bro. Enjoy your internet points." I didn't respond. What's the point? He's still living in a world where he's the victim and I'm the bad guy. The extended family has mostly gone silent. I think they finally realized I'm not backing down. Or maybe they read the post and some of them saw themselves in the people enabling Mom's behavior. Either way, the guilt trip calls have stopped. That's something. Jake invited me to meet his family at a barbecue next weekend. His sister's visiting from out of state. I said yes. That's weird, right? Meeting a friend's family? Doing normal family stuff with people who aren't related to me? But it feels less weird than going back to my actual family at this point. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.